friends, I'm going to be showing you some math games that you can practice at home to continue to work on your skills while we're not at school. So the first one is a way that you can practice comparing numbers. And so I have some examples here that have already been done, and then I have some that I'm going to walk you through. So if I have two numbers, you can create your own numbers, have mom or dad create some, or brother or sister. And then if you have some little stickers, then you can put your symbols on them for greater than, less than, and equal to, and then kind of use that to practice ordering, comparing your numbers. So if we have 1,242, 1,208, you can practice by looking. Remember, we look at the front of the number first on each one. So we have a 1 and a 1 in the thousands place, so that doesn't tell us anything. So we go to the hundreds place, a 2 and a 2. We still don't know any information. So then to the tens place, a 4 and a 0. Well, we know that 4 is bigger. So that means that this number, 1,242, is going to be greater than 1,208. So you could use your little sticker and compare those numbers. Okay, then also if we look here, we realize that 758 are the same. So we could use equal to. You don't even have to have stickers. You could just write them on your paper. The next activity is an activity on practicing your numbers and reading them. And it is called Cows and Bulls. So I'm going to explain it. This is a game that can be played with two people. And one person creates a number in their head or writes it down on paper where the other person cannot see it. And then they will write dashes to represent how many numbers are in that number. So for instance, my number here has 4. So we know that's going to be a number that's in the thousands place. So then where cows and bulls helps the game is the C. When we code it in just a minute, you'll see what I'm talking about, will stand for that the number does belong in the order of the number, but it needs to move around to another place value. The B will mean that you've hit the bullseye and the number belongs there, and so you're one step closer to guessing that number. So let's say that I've created my number in my head and my partner is going to guess a number. So I'm going to write down the number that my partner guesses. And I'm going to say they guess 1,054. So now I'm going to code that. So I'm going to have, remember, C is if it belongs there but it needs to be moved, and a B means that it's in the correct place. And then if there is an X, that means that that number is not in the number whatsoever. So if you look at this, that means that my partner correctly guessed that it has a 1 in the thousands place and a 5 in the tens place. They also correctly guessed that there's a 0 in the number, but it needs to be moved. So then what would happen is you would draw your dashes again, and your partner would have a chance to guess another number. This helps in number recall and getting very fluent in saying those numbers. So we already know that they had the 1 correct and the 5 correct, and the 0 just needed to move. Well, this one's pretty easy because there's only one more place the 0 could move. So now they just have one number to guess to get my number correct. So I'm going to write a number and show you what it would look like. So let's say this time they guessed 1,350. Well, we know the 1 was already correct, and this time they changed the 3. We know they had the 5 correct, and they moved the 0. So this is what it would look like if they had the number all guessed correctly. It would be all B's because that means they landed on the bullseye. So that's a game that will help with just reading your numbers and thinking about those. You can also, parents, ask questions during this time like, is this number bigger than the number in the hundreds place? Or have them compare the two numbers that they guessed. Which one is the larger number? Which one's the smaller number? So a lot of great skills can be covered in this game. Another game that can be used with practicing subtraction and even fractions is if you have some Play-Doh laying around, or even if you don't, you can use various things. You can practice subtraction with this. So if, let's say that I wanted to tell my child to show me 4 minus 2. So they could just flatten 2 and they would see that 4 minus 2 is 2. Another thing you could do is showing fractions. So I have fourths here because there are 4 pieces. Tell them to show you 2/4 smashed. So once again, they could just push, smash 2 pieces, and there would be 2/4 smashed. If you had multiple colors of Play-Doh, you could also do this with different colors and maybe have them show you, let's say 4/6 green, or 2/3 yellow, based on whatever you had laid out. So that's an activity you can do with them. A third activity is just a little game to where this is a ways to make 10 game. You don't even have to have scissors or anything fancy. I just ripped some paper, and parents just choose random numbers, and then like this one is ways to make 10. So what children are going to do is decide out of these numbers how they can make 10, and they're going to pull them into here and use them together. So I know that if I'm making 10, I could use 6 and 4, and that would give me 10. Another thing I know, you could throw in some subtraction here, is I could use 12 and take away 2 and get 10 also. So this is a good activity for really getting fluent with math facts and being able to do that. Another one that you could do with it is multiples of 4. So for our 3rd and 4th graders who are working on those multiples, especially 3rd grade, and they could practice this kind of practice. There's skip counting. So you can put just random numbers down here. Make sure, of course, that the multiples of 4 are in there. And then they would just simply separate, and they could sing their skip counting song or practice however they need to. And they would pull the multiples of 4 and put them in there. So this can be done, these games can be done with various rules as the top, and then whatever numbers you choose to create. Another activity you can do is just write some random numbers on paper and have your child put them in order from greatest to least, or least to greatest. So let's say if I wanted these in least to greatest, you could have your child stack them on a piece of paper and kind of work it out with their strategy. Or they could just put them in order by looking at it. And so they would put them in order from least to greatest, or you could flip the order on them and have them do it from greatest to least. So I hope that these activities will help you to continue your learning, and we will see you soon.